Hello again, everybody. Welcome to some Toonkind at 12 frames per second. My name is Whis. I am one of your players for today, and I am going to be playing one Mr. Chifley Forde, who genuinely has no idea what's going to happen today. But, you know, that happens. That's every other Tuesday for a Toonkind, I guess. And joining me from far, far away, where I want all of your temperatures. The wonderful, amazing, and all-around overheating, unfortunately.
we meet in the middle, we equalise the temperature, and we live in a nice Caribbean balmy climate. Hello, my name is DEWP Kieran, and I think we might be going with your recording because mine did not start until after you'd done your introduction.
Whoops.
So for my recording, yes, Whis is playing with me, and they're going to be playing Chifley, and I'm going to be playing Rabia Blind. Yeah, no, she's gonna be in this one. Chifley finally gets to meet Chifley finally gets to meet this person. I don't know how this is gonna go, genuinely. But yeah.
Yes. No, I genuinely don't have any idea how it's gonna go either. Chif, this is taking place before the current situation that is happening with Cassie, which hopefully we will resolve that one this weekend. But for now, yeah, this is happening before that, so he is not in a horribly distressed emotional state. He's actually quite happy at the moment. Before it all goes downhill, he and Lau made a little shrine to the soundtrack, essentially in the middle of nowhere, and he has been making pilgrimage there every other day or so, particularly after work, but before picking Missy up, so he can just have a little bit of time to just sort of just to relax a bit, and he'll look after the flowers that they planted around the place and make sure it's nice and clean and tidy, and that's what he's doing today. He is just sort of cheerfully walking along this is more of a goat track than a path, I think, through this field towards the shrine.
Yeah, it's yeah, so basically, yeah, it's a very, very faint track. It's the only reason this track is here is probably because you've been coming here so long, or every so often. And a track is starting to form. There weren't that many signs of any usage beforehand. I suppose the first things first, do you want to roll me a perception?
Sure, we can do that. Let's see what his brand new dice have to say about the matter. Yeah, great. Well done, Jeff. Congratulations. That is a 5 on the dice. First. That's a total of 9.
Boy, howdy. Well, yeah, no, it's a pretty typical day, Chifley. You come down from that verge, that spiraling verge you used to get here, you're through the brush, and yeah, in front of you's the lake, to your right is the tall rock cliff face, that borders the lake/pond, and you can make out the greenhouse across the way, and yeah, there's your shrine. Still standing, still there.
Always good. He's not really expecting to see anything anyway, so, like, this makes sense, this tracks. But, yeah, he's just gonna walk on straight up to it.
Excellent. Okay. As you get closer to the shrine, give me a moment, I'm trying to figure out, because you rolled that was a 9 in perception, buddy. Like, that is... Oh, is that in recording? Oh, no, it's just on my voice. I think.
You're good.
Sorry, there's a loud background noise at the minute.
It's all good. It's not that distracting.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you come over to the shrine, and everything is pretty much as it should be. There doesn't seem to be any disturbances. The shrine is how it is. That's how you last left it.
Good.
What Chif- so, what would Chifley, what would Chifley do to look after the shrine? What would his duties? What would he take up?
Well, to start with, he'd make sure that the plants around the place have had some water. He keeps a little insulated watering can in his hammer space, so he'll just give them a little bit of water and make sure there aren't any crowding weeds or anything of that nature. Make sure there's no no birds have been sitting on the shrine and have left evidence thereof. Make sure it's all clean and what have you. And after the place is nice and presentable, he usually likes to just sort of sit down in the little magical circle that's sort of permanently there in front. He likes to just sort of sit there and meditate, I guess.
Okay. Well, you go about your cleaning duties. With no issue. You do this every other day. You don't tend to have any issues really. You water your plants. You clean around the shrine, dust to make sure there's no guck anywhere. And gonna sit down and you gonna sit down and meditate today?
Mhm. Yep.
Could you roll me Could you roll me a con check, please?
A check or a save?
Check.
Doesn't.
This is just to see how hard you're concentrating.
Okay. Doesn't hugely matter for him anyway, but that is an 8.
Well, this might actually make sense, because you flop down on your butt, and you close your eyes and you try to focus. For some reason, you can't focus. Something, well, an instinct maybe, but there's something that is making it really, really difficult to focus on just meditating right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's some little tickle. It's telling you that maybe meditation isn't a wise idea right now.
Interesting. He is going to frown and kind of look around, and he's going to see if he can listen into the background music, see if it seems suspicious or anything like that. So we'll give that a try.
Go ahead.
Chiff, really? I mean, it's not that bad.
Roll again because you're literally next to the soundtrack shrine.
Okay, sure. That's worse. It's above a 10. It's a 13.
13. Screw it, I'll give it to you. So, you listen in around where you're sat, and you can hear the resonance of the soundtrack, the overarching soundtrack, probably coming from the shrine. I'm not actually sure how tapping into it would affect or react with the shrine. Probably be up to you. But for the surrounding area, it's pretty calm and peaceful. It's just very slow and very soft. But as you kind of focus into the background theming of this place, and it is just background noise. It's like the essential background noise of like a running stream or wind through the trees and maybe a couple of bird song. You hear intertwined with that kind of you can just make out on the range of your hearing a low flute of some kind, a low woodwind of some kind.
That definitely wasn't there before. Chif's gonna stand up and see if he can figure out where that flute is coming from. Just try and hone in on it a little bit. Because it's not normally something that is in this place's theme. So I guess that's what, a investigation?
Yeah, investigation.
Okay. Let's see what happens. Okay. Not crash hot there, Chif. He's not doing well. It's a 9.
You guys betraying him. He's having a time.
He is having a time.
9. Okay, cool. You can't quite locate where it's coming from. You can definitely tell it's nearby. You can't tell a direction.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, now he definitely can't focus because he's heard this. He's like, that's a bit strange. But he'll go back to the shrine, and instead of sitting in front of it to meditate, he'll actually rolling my hammer space. I have a D10. What am I doing? That's a D10. That's a 3. He'll pull a book out of his hammer space, and he'll sort of sit with his back to the shrine and start reading his book. But he's also sort of surveying the environment a bit as well at the same time.
Cool. Just a second. D. Oh no.
That's a natural one.
It's indeed a natural one. Holy hell. You sit down with your book and you survey the area. And you don't know how you missed this before. Perhaps you were focusing more on using the soundtrack to locate something rather than your eyes. As you sit down, you kind of look up slightly. Someone's sitting in a tree, looking down at you, very obviously.
I think there's just gonna be this ... moment where he just goes and makes eye contact with this person, and he'll just sort of close the book, put it back in his hammer space, and then very pointedly maintain eye contact.
This person stares back at you, with rather bright coppery red hair and green eyes. They're wearing a cloak and long jerkin trousers and rough old leather boots. And they are swinging both of their legs over the side of one of the branches, hands clasped to either side of their body. Kind of squint at you until their head. And they say, "It took you a little while to realize I was up here. You always this lax on your guard."
There isn't usually any reason to be on guard here.
Figure looks around and nods absently. "Yes, I can see it is, well, it is rather very nicely deserted." And kind of squirm to the edge of the branch. And they hop off the tree. It wasn't very high up. High enough out of your range of vision, but not high enough to give them full damage. I'm not doing that. Yeah, they hop off and land very lightly on their feet. And just kind of look around the area, and then down at you, Chifley. And at the shrine. And as they make their way over, they say, "Well, I suppose this is yours."
That's right.
And this person is going to stand for a couple of seconds looking around the shrine. And you can see as they're looking around, they kind of look at the wood, and they look at the magical circle on the floor, which they do pointedly kind of avoid. And then they look at the flowers and they kind of stop. Think a couple of times. Before they shoot you a smile, cross their legs and kind of fall with crossed legs onto their rear.
Oh yes, I sit
Their
down
head
like
on
that
the
all the
hand.
time.
They put their head on their hand and just, well, I suppose you could say I'm rather new to this area. Would you mind telling me? They gesture, knock their head towards the shrine. What this is all about?
It is a shrine to my patron deity, the soundtrack.
Well, wrong religion. Does Rabia know what the soundtrack is?
Man,
I love that bonus for whole nothing.
That's a 5.
And I love that bonus for whole nothing. 5.
Probs not.
Uh, she tilts her head to the side and squints and is just, I have been around Inkwell for quite a while, but I've not heard of... I don't think... I have heard of it, I may have forgotten. She rubs the side of her face. And you get the impression perhaps this person is a woman?
Mm-hmm.
Probably. They have a very feminine voice. Um, I forgot to say, this person is real kind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That should probably have been the first thing I said, but yes, this is a real kind person.
Yeah. Chifley's going to nod. I'm not actually that surprised. This is the only shrine of theirs nearby at all, and it's relatively new. They are not obscure, but not very widely worshipped.
Getting slow little nod. Rabia. And oh, I understand about gods and worship. Although, tell me more about them. And she suddenly shifts, braces her forearms on her knees, and leans in a bit more towards you. And shoots you a smile. Uh, Tell me more about your gods. I'm always eager to learn more things.
Chifley is just going to roll an insight quickly. Chifley is going to roll an 8 on the die.
He's nice bullying you.
Yeah, apparently. But that's okay. That's fine. A 15 is fine. He has a stupid high insight modifier. So he's trying to kind of get a read on whether or not she's genuinely interested, or if she's just saying she is to string him along for something. He's a little bit confused because most people don't just show up in the middle of nowhere and start asking questions, you know?
So, you can definitely tell it's a genuine interest, but you can't quite shake the feeling there might be some other reason she's talking to you.
Okay. He is gonna give a little bit of a small frown, I suppose, but then relax a tad and nod. The soundtrack is, well, they're obviously a Toonkind D&D. They are the patron of bards and musicians, and they compose the world's music. Where I am from, which is the heart of their faith, we can hear the music that they make for every person and most places. Plus 10. Wow, what's the plus 10?
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about it. This person nods along and just says, make music for the entire world. That is a very big job for one deity. I know there are deities out there who are in charge of things like motions and souls, but even then they are usually restricted to, well, Inkwell.
Well, I assume that elsewhere things are no different. I've never been outside of Inkwell, but I have met plenty of real kind like yourself who seem to have themes. So it's either the world's music is worldwide, or you gain some sort of theme when you enter Inkwell.
Person kind of tilts their head to lean on their shoulder, and their eyes kind of squint and gaze off past you to look at the shrine. Get a little bit of a distant look before they utter to themselves. Would be quite an interesting thing to test if you ever left Inkwell. Try and listen to the music that echoes throughout the world.
It has crossed my mind a few times. But for now, I don't have any reason to leave.
Her eyes kind of slide over to you, Chifley, and she nods and says, well, if this place is your home, then you don't want to leave, then don't.
It's a hard fort for home. My family and my friends are here. And I am comfortable. And so are they. So there's no reason to find somewhere new.
Give me a sec. Give me a sec. Gosh, how is she gonna respond to that statement? Give me a moment. You can see she's kind of idly put her hand down, starts to pluck at a few blades of grass, as she gaze goes from the shrine and starts to gaze down back at the flowers. You can't tell if she's still listening anymore, but you can see she nods. Hard-won homes are usually the best kinds, and sometimes they're the homes you need to fight for the most. Even if you do leave Inkwell one day, do yourself that little favor and make sure that home is still waiting for you.
Chifley's gonna just sort of arch an eyebrow at that comment, but nod. I'll make a note of that.
Person locks eyes with you, and it's a very solid nod. They slide their eyes back down to the flowers, and they tilt their head, and you see a small quirk of the smile, side of their lips. I haven't. So did you grow these flowers as well? She kind of reaches down, and we haven't actually discussed what flowers were here.
No, we
But
didn't.
I do imagine there's I imagine there's things like violets and bluebells and tulips, and snowdrops, because hee hoo. Because I said so. Yeah, she kind of puts her hand underneath the flowers, and just very gently kind of wiggles wiggles the bud, the head, the actual flower itself.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very gentle.
No, I'm not responsible for them. I just look after them now. A dear friend of mine made them come into me.
She kind of nods, not looking at you, still fiddling with the flower. Well, whoever they are, they certainly know how to grow. They certainly know how to grow their plants. It's good to see that there are still people who know what they're doing when it comes to gardening. You won't believe the amount of, and she just kind of leans back, lets go of the flower, leans back on both of her hands and look up to the sky. A slight breeze pulls the copper curls on her head, and she's just, you wouldn't believe the amount of people who don't know what they're doing when it comes to plants. Honestly, the amount of people that pick a dandelion because they think it's a weed, which I suppose technically is true, but you just kind of, you kind of see her just sigh and gaze up, and mutter to herself under her breath.
I may not know the intricacies of gardening myself, but I know how to look after them. My old shrine at my old home had flowers. Not the same ones, but similar. And I was given very precise instructions on the proper care.
That's good to hear, at least. It it would be a shame if you were not taught how to look after the blooms properly. Yeah, they do tend to add a little something. Areas like this, holy areas.
Hmm. It just made this place quite lovely, actually. It was always peaceful and serene, but us putting the shrine on the flowers here has, well, it's very visually appealing, but it's also quite palatable to the local fauna.
And this person looks around, and if you looked around as well, Chifley, you wouldn't realize that. Yeah, no, your words are quite correct because the last few times you've been here, there were animals around, like maybe like a squirrel or a singular pigeon, but now there are actually also more insects around. There's
Bees
like
and butterflies
bees,
and other pollinators, yes.
yeah, pollinators, and there's more bird song, and there's just seems to be a little bit more here than before. It seems to be slightly more. Hmm, actually, I might have to have you roll the soundtrack for that
Okay.
if you wanted to pick up on that kind of stuff.
Sure, let's check out the soundtrack. One day we will roll above a 10, but that's okay.
You want to roll again because you're right next to the shrine, my
Okay,
dude.
I'll roll it with advantage. No, that's worse. 16 it is.
Damn it. Okay, 16. Yeah, well, it's still a 16. So if
Yeah.
you focus in on the soundtrack, listen into the area, you can tell a marked difference when you started. It's not immediately strikes you is that it doesn't sound as lonely anymore. It doesn't sound as it's still background music, but it doesn't sound as faint as it was before. Or there was barely anything to hear. Now you can tell there's a bit more happening
It's got a bit of
since
life
you've
to
built
it,
the
a bit of
shrine.
personality to it.
Yeah. It's like someone is adding in the melody to the bass score.
Mm.
It were.
That just sort of
And
makes Tiff smile. Just sort of thinking about how they've made this sort of little, just a small change as far as they're concerned, but it's made a positive change to the environment around them.
oh gosh. Um and this person is probably gonna stare at you while you're doing this, Chifley. Um Gonna squint and say, so what exactly was that about? You had you spaced out a little bit there. Are you feeling alright?
Oh, no, I'm fine. I was just listening to the soundtrack of the area. It's changing ever so slightly.
The person's eyes widen, and you see the smile get just a bit bigger. And they lean in a bit more towards you, Chifley, and say, "Oh, you can hear that then.
Very much
It's not
so.
just a thing your god can do."
The soundtrack creates these songs, these musical themes for places and people, and those chosen to can hear that music. Not everyone can, but I can. I can hear the soundtrack of this place, of the people around me. It is something very common where we're from.
Uh, is Chifley looking at this person at all?
Oh yeah, he's looking at her. Yeah.
Well, as you keep talking, Chifley, you see that her eyes kind of soften, and her smile goes from like a kind of a cheeky-ish grin to showing more teeth, and it softens a lot more. Kind
Mm-hmm.
of, how do I describe this? softens in a certain kind of joy. Not quite sure what kind, but this person is very. They're smiling at you.
Mm-hmm.
And, sorry, give me a second. I'm trying to think. My brain is trying to have a thinky thunk. Da, da, da. Okay, that's okay. They just nod, and that is a very special ability that your god has gifted you. That's that's. Then they look up at the shrine. That's something. I'm not sure that's something for everyone, mind you, but I can imagine that comes in handy more often than not.
It certainly has its uses, especially in the kind of work that I do.
Oh, what kind of work do you do then? And at this point, this woman, question mark, has kind of slouched down onto her elbows on her front and then pushed her legs out. So now she's basically doing that, she's holding her chin between both of her hands, like up on a stead, and you see that she is kicking her legs behind her in the air.
100% relaxed. Cool.
Chill.
Just gonna tilt his head to one side a little bit, but well, without going into huge amounts of detail, I'm a nurse.
One of her eyebrows raises up. A nurse?
I'm not.
You're a healer of some sort.
I am a cleric, but my my work is medical, but I'm still training, so I'm not exactly a doctor.
Woman nods. Uh, so it's funny. I actually have a son. He's also a cleric. I wouldn't say he's a doctor by any stretch of the imagination. Lord, no. He's, I suppose, a medic is the closest application for him. He can. Well, let's just say if you lop off your leg, he'll be able to sew it up for you. And if you catch a minor cold, he'll be able to treat you with some herbal remedies. But he's not a diagnosis kind of person. That's no. He will see a thing, and he will see a wound. He will see an illness, and well he will treat it as best he can. But he's certainly no doctor. It's being a cleric is. I've never been a cleric. Don't think I ever will. Will I be a cleric? And this woman seems to be drifting off track a little bit. You can tell she's starting to get more involved in her own thoughts.
Yeah.
A little bit distracted.
Just gonna let her do that for a moment or two, and then just the ability to heal that one gets from being a cleric is definitely useful. In my case, my work is a little bit more specialized. You
That
wouldn't,
immediately had her attention.
for example, you would never come to our facility for things that ail you, as we don't treat anything that could affect you.
You see, she kind of squints you, and you can see her ticker box absolutely thinking, why do you have no modifiers in intelligence? Excuse me? I need to go over her sheet. I don't know what the hell this sheet is. My God. 7? She has. just looks at you and says, "Why would you not be able to treat me?"
We have plenty of clerics on staff, so we would be able to assist in some way, but we specialized in color disorders. Not something that
Ah,
real kind get.
I see. Okay, that makes a little more sense. I thought it was something else. Don't worry. And she waves a hand. Reaches out and starts to play with one of the flowers again. This time it's a yellow tulip.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just kind of ding dings on it. And well, with such specialized work, I suppose all medical, all people in some sort of medical training have their specialties. Some people are experts in reviving the dead, some are experts at preventing you from getting to death's door in the first place. Well, to be fair, that's should be most clerics, unless they are of a different domain. I'm not entirely sure. Again, I'm not a cleric, I don't know exactly how they work, but I have heard there are some clerics that instead of healing you, they kill you and then bring you back. Do you know the amount of clerics that think it's easier to just kill you and then necromant you back to life? You would be surprised the amount that think it's the easier route to take. I personally think it's a little bit of a lazy approach to healing, but each their own.
Chifley's just sort of gonna blink at that remark. It may be less labor intensive, but that's not sure how I feel about that as a method.
It's a method. And she shrugs. I've seen it, but well, it is what it is. It was it is what it is. And she just kind of she's focusing very hard on the tulip right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but man, I'm very sorry. My brain is being a bit sluggish today.
It's okay. I feel like at this
Brain,
point,
come on.
Chif's gonna give her another moment to play with the tulip and then go,
Hmm?
we seem to have neglected to introduce ourselves.
It's kind of a stop. And this woman slowly tilts her head to the side where she's been looking at the tulip. Then she slowly pushes herself up, cross-legged back onto her rump. um, because this woman is rather heavy set.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Looks over at Chifley and just shakes her head as to, I'm rather shocked at my lack of manners. That's my apologies. I should introduce myself, shouldn't I? Um, and they will bow their head a little at you and say, I would not deny you the honors of the first introduction.
Chifley's just gonna tilt his head to the side a little bit, but my name is Chifley Forde.
Give me a quick second. I gotta roll something. Oh boy. I love your no modifier rolls. They're great.
14.
Okay. Okay, okay, okay. Okay. You see this woman shuffle a little bit and her eyes kind of narrow again and nod slowly. She's like, Chifley Forde. Well? She seems to kind of stop and there's a bit of a hesitance before she heaves a great sigh, locks eyes with you and says, well, Chifley Forde, my name is Rabia. Uh, just, just Rabia. Do.
Oh, he's gonna roll an insight on that. Well, there's the first roll above a 10. Well done, Chifley.
Oh yeah.
That makes it a 19.
19. Okay, so they're not. The person isn't lying about their name. I don't think. They seem pretty honest, but you also can tell there's something back. But yeah, you just don't. You can't quite latch on to what that's about, but there's definitely some holding back going on.
Well, the pleasure was mine, Miss Rabia.
Oh no! I should say the pleasure is all mine. After all, I did stumble across your holy ground, and you have been gracious enough to allow a pilgrim such as myself, uh, sanctuary at your shrine.
Far be it from me to turn anyone away.
Oh, you'd be surprised by the amount of people who try to turn people away. It's a thing apparently, and if you don't meet certain requirements to be able to stay at the shrine, it becomes a whole thing. It's honestly sometimes how quests start out. It's no, not particularly great for quite a few adventurers, to be honest. Anyhow, thank you for your hospitality.
You're welcome. What's brought you on pilgrimage to this part of the world?
You see her eyes brighten very slightly, the slight slivers of sunshine coming through the clouds catch on her eyes and glint off her hair, and she well, it's funny you should ask that. I was actually here to visit my son. He lives in Toontown, so I thought a little drop by might be good.
I see. Well, I'm sure you'd appreciate the visit. Any visit from family is usually a good day.
I'm gonna go with that 19. You see Rabia smile, but there's a very wry look in her eye as you say that. She's like, yes, visits from family are always interesting. Certainly liven things up for him. The poor boy needs to get out more, honestly. Keeps locking, well, I wouldn't say locking, but he's a little too obsessed with certain things, and quite frankly, he needs someone to get him out of the house.
Chifley doesn't really have a comment to give to that.
You're fair, Chifley. You're so valid.
And look, he's from the perspective of if his parents rocked up, like legitimately rocked up, not any other way that they could rock up, and I'm looking directly at you, that would be a good day. If Cassie comes to visit, that's a good day. Like, as far as he's concerned, family coming to visit is a good day. But he's like, I don't know what to say about that.
Awkward.
I just maybe might not say anything.
Actually, do you want to roll me a perception?
Certainly.
This is because it's quiet for a couple seconds, and then you hear her mutter something under her breath.
What is your perception? It is a +4. 16.
Okay. You hear something uttered under her breath. You give me a second for phrasing. Right. There we go. Okay. You hear although it's not for lack of trying on Soul's part. Poor creature.
I'm gonna roll him an intelligence. Nope.
Chif, buddy.
It's a 4. Grand
Oh,
total of 4.
buddy. I think your dice are being naughty.
Apparently so. Actually, you know what?
Seems naughty
I'm
already.
gonna give him advantage because that's kind of obvious. Soul is not subtle. Also, yes, soul might be a pseudo common name, but creature. He only knows one soul creature.
There's
That's
only one creature named Soul.
that's better. Thank you, Chifley. One of these things is not like the other. That is a dirty 20.
Nice.
Yes. Good. Thank you. Well done. Congratulations, Chif. You've connected the
If
fucking
we go
dots.
with if you go with both of those rolls, it's like the first roll you're just kind of spacing out. You're not really clocking anything or paying attention, and then with that dirty 20, your brain suddenly focuses in. Wait,
Yeah.
hang on.
He wasn't
What was that you
genuinely
just said?
listening and he's like, wait. Did you say soul?
This woman has gone back to playing with not particularly playing with tubes anymore, just kind of brushing her hand over the tops of all the flowers and just watching them rustle in the breeze. She says, yes, I believe that is their name, unless Laos changed it to something else. But I don't think he would change it. That boy can be rather stubborn about things like names, so at least he better be. I taught him better than that.
There's another moment. Your Lao's mother.
And that she pauses, lifts her head up very slowly. At the corner of her, she's not looking like she doesn't turn her head towards you, but you can see like the glint of her pupils catch as she looks at you out of the corner of her eye. I suppose that would depend on who's asking.
Lao is my friend. So, while I may not have any business asking, I am curious nonetheless.
I'm getting a full on squint. I'm gonna roll that 19 from earlier. She does not know if you're telling the truth about being Lao's friend. Um, squints. She
From what I know of Lao, and it makes an awful lot of sense because Lao friends question mark what?
exactly. No, she squints at you out of the corner of her eye, and no, she's not. It's not the corner of her eye anymore. She's turned towards you again, shuffling around. Her hand is still kind of playing over the flowers that are growing. She looks. It's just you. Okay, I need. Forgive me for asking for clarification, but you are specifically a friend of my son's.
I believe that's what we are. Yes.
Not an not a rival or a competitor or irritant. Has he called you an irritant? Has he called you annoying?
Chifley actually folds his arms and has a think about it. I don't think so.
Huh. Oh. Okay.
No, he's actually quite kind to me.
Okay. Hello? Am I back?
Oh, did you die?
I can now. So I think we're using your recording, Whis.
Oh dear.
um, um, but yeah, just kind of blinks and squints and just well, that is certainly new. Okay. Well,
I suppose if my son thinks of you as a friend, then it would make sense, I suppose. And you can see her attention is kind of drifting between you and the shrine, and then the flowers. And she gives a little. I thought I recognized these sort of blooms. He likes to grow things in a very particular way. And well, this circle rather reminded me of how he grows his things.
Well, it was his doing.
I'm so sorry, could you repeat that? I can't hear you.
It was his doing. This whole shrine wouldn't be here without him.
She has a very strange look on her face. She looks up at the shrine, and then back at the flowers, and up at the shrine, and back at the flowers, and then back at you. And then she kind of casts her eye over this whole place, and she's just... It's... Well, at least I hope this is correct, but it's good to see that he's actually getting out a bit more. And not locking himself in his room with his plants all the time.
Oh, no. We've seen each other outside of his apartment quite a few times. Most of the time, actually.
That's... that's good. That boy needs to get out more. He needs to talk to people more. He's a bit of a... I'm sure when you first met him you know, but he's a bit of a grump. He's not particularly good at making... This comes from a mother's perspective, mind you. This is, I don't know how. You see, she kind of wants to say something, and she keeps stopping herself, and she keeps opening her mouth, and she keeps stopping herself, and she just shakes her head and just says, well, I'm glad that he has friends, anyhow. Or at least one friend.
He doesn't really talk about himself, so I wouldn't know about any others. But he has me. He has Saul, at least.
That boy will always have Saul. And you can roll an insight on that if you want.
I will in fact roll an insight on that. And there we go again, but that's okay. Chif's insight. Whoa! Never mind. I'm assuming that is a deception check.
That is a nat 20. That's a 30.
Yeah, Chif cannot physically beat that.
Damn! Rabia didn't have to go this hard. But okay. Alright. Yeah, no, she's genuinely just... Yeah, no. She gives like a very happy smile. Like, she's... Man, you don't get nothing. You don't get nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you get. Yeah, she's just nodding along. She's like, yes, that son of mine is, they're very attached. And I can't say I'm too surprised that, well, Saul was probably one of the first plants that Lao ever grew by himself. He's very proud.
Certainly setting the bar pretty high.
Oh, why'd you say that?
I like Saul. They're a good whatever they are. And my sister likes Soul quite a bit.
Soul is a very genuine being. They're pure in a way that most people aren't. Not to say that people are generally filthy, although they can be. But Soul is a kind of Soul is a kind of force of nature that not many people can get in touch with. And it's good to see that they've left such a good impression on the people around them.
Chifley's just sort of nodding and thinking about it a bit. A force of nature is definitely a good way to describe them.
I shan't lie, I have heard things. I do keep in touch with newspapers and things, and the amount of times I've seen Soul in a sidebar about kidnapping children, was it? They get themselves into mischief far too often.
I'm gonna roll a deception for Chifley about that one.
Go ahead.
That's not great. That's not great, Tiff. What's your deception? +2.
Oh.
Okay, so that's a 9. He's
Okay.
Do you want to roll an insight to contest it?
Yeah, I'll do that. Oh man, rolling on my phone is difficult. Let's do this.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah. She can see Chifley twitch at the mention of kidnapping children, and he's just thinking of the day they met Sol. Oh, and the stress he was under on that day. It turned out fine. They're friends now. But the stress. We remember the stress. Oh god.
she kind of. She's been doing a little squinting at you today, Chifley, and she's squinting at you again. And you can see there's a slight twitch to the corner of her mouth, which is kind of settled into more of a flat line. And she leans in a little closer. I imagine they're facing each other, like, face to face.
Yeah.
At this point. And she just kind of leans in, and you can roll a dex save if you want.
Oh, a dex save. Okay.
Huh?
Sure, we can roll a dex save.
Dex saves are my favourite.
It's an 11.
11. I guess it's up to you if this works or not, because you see this woman kind of reach out all her hands towards your face, her pointer finger kind of pointed out.
Mm-hmm.
And she is going to try and boot you on the nose. I don't know if Chifley's going to dodge that.
I think he'll probably do it at the last minute. Like, she's just about to make contact and, like, close enough to feel his general cold aura, and then he'll just sort of jerk his head back.
She just pokes him in the chin. Just like a quick swipe on the down chin. And she just... Oh, God, I apologize if I invaded your space, but... Oh, the look on your face. The consternation. Oh, I think your encounters with Soul perhaps may have been just as exciting as that.
My sister has more encounters with Sol on a regular basis, and she finds them quite thrilling.
Oh, sister? How old is she? If you don't mind me asking, of course.
6.
Oh, 6. That's... Cool. You want to roll an insight?
Yeah, I'm going to
Do
contest
you want to
that.
roll an insight?
It is still technically within the realms of what Chifley can do, so we'll contest it.
Come on, Chiffers.
Unfortunately not. That's an 18.
Oh,
That is not
buddy.
a 26.
Sadly, no. Yeah, no, she's just nodding her head. Her brows are furrowed, but there is a little smile on her face. She nods and says, "Oh, it's you and your sister. That's I'm glad to hear that that at least one of you is having fun meeting Soul. I'm glad she's so enthused."
She's very, very enthusiastic about hanging out with them.
Well, from what I know, they tend to be very good with most children. At least from what I've observed. After all, there's got to be a reason they go after. Well, I shouldn't say go after, that sounds dubious. There's a reason they. There's a reason they. That's the word. That's the word. Gravitate. Gravitate towards children so much. And you do see a flash of something across this woman's face before it quickly gets pushed aside. She kind of looks around and down at the flowers. Kind of focuses on that. She will actually reach underneath her cloak, and pull out a flask of some sort, and you hear as the cork pops off the top, and she'll take a very quick swig. Puts the cork back on, shoves it back down, and looks around the area and just. I don't suppose you would mind if. Would you mind if I took some of these? And she kind of points at the flowers growing around.
No, I don't mind. One or two.
Thank you. And she'll give you a very quick bow, from her shoulders to her head. And she will slowly begin to reach out and gently try and pluck these flowers. I will say with an 18, you will kind of see that she seems to be handling these with a kind of delicate care. But her hands are clumsy taking them out of the ground, but she is being very, very delicate plucking these. And she kind of plucks one of each type. Like, she gets a bluebell, she gets a tulip, she gets snowdrops. One of each type of flower going around. And slowly lays them out next to her. And as she's doing this, she will look to you and say, "So, if you don't mind me asking, how exactly did you meet my son?"
We met in a library. He was being inconvenienced by a animated book.
Oh, gosh, an animated book. Well, at least it's a book and not something else. Well, I suppose if you'd met Sol in a library, that would have been a very different experience. Oh, goodness. So you met in a library. Alright. And you can clearly see she's mentally filing that away. For what purpose, you don't know. And she nods and says, "Well, I hope he wasn't too much of a blowhard when you first met him. My son can be very, what's the word? And she kind of snaps her fingers. He can be very stubborn and spiky, I suppose the word would be, around people. But he's good to the people he cares about.
Jeff's gonna just nod. Like, he got a little bit thoughtful when she said Spike. He's like, oh yeah, I've seen Lars Leinart do that. But then, yeah, just nod. Yeah. Yeah, he can.
It's just she's kind of looking at these flowers in her lap and kind of gently rolling the stems between her fingers. She gets a very, it's a blank look on her face before looking back up at you and saying, Mr. Forde, may I... This may be inappropriate, but may I ask you something?
You can ask. Whether I answer is a different question.
She nods. Fair's fair. What? She is hesitating. She is struggling to figure out how to phrase whatever it is she wants to phrase.
Mm-hmm.
What would it take for you to break a friendship? And she is looking at you very intently.
Chifley looks a little taken aback by that. It's like, he doesn't respond in words, but you can kind of see on his face the, I'm sorry, what? expression on his face. He's just a bit stunned.
This woman who was kind of smiling and joking and talking with you earlier has gone very blank-faced. And she leans in a little more towards you, still rolling the flowers between her fingers and thumb. What exactly are your boundaries? What are your limits to friendship, Mr. Forde?
It's not something that I've put a hard line in the sand on. But Lau has not given me any reason not to trust him.
She kind of stares at you, Chifley. This woman's eyes, a dark green, kind of piercing. I am gonna roll. I'm gonna roll an intimidation.
Okay, guess I get to roll a whiz save to contest.
Well, it wasn't very high.
Oh, well, he got an 11 on the dice, so he's fine.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah.
Oh. This woman is staring at you very intently, and you think a lesser man would be intimidated by this, but you faced worse than a mother.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular mother just... Well, and she leans back and she gives you a sharp, shark-like grin. And as the wind kind of picks up a little bit, you see that her hair, which was loose around her head, lifts up a bit, and you can see the pointed tips of ears sticking out as the wind blows. Well, I hope that you never have to find out those limits with Lau. Because as I've said, and as I'm sure you know, he can be very, very stubborn when he believes in something. And he can be kind of a pain when it comes to getting him to change his mind. I just I won't ask you to promise me this because I know what promises mean to Toons, but as his mother, I need to ask you if you could do me a favor.
You can ask.
She hasn't taken her eyes off of you. I need you to... I would request that should something happen, should certain avenues and roads occur that... how to phrase this? Should my son seem to be going down a pathway not just be there for him? And she's struggling to find words, and she's kind of desperate to find words.
Mm.
And her eyes are widened a little more as they look at you.
That does make him smile a little bit. Love's been there for me, and I'm more than happy to return it.
Get a sharp, succinct nod. Good. That boy needs someone he can rely on. He needs to know there's someone that will be in his corner no matter what. He doesn't take betrayal well.
Very few people do.
Not many people do. No, you're right. And she kind of stares at you longer before she shakes her head and just... I'm so sorry. This got very serious all of a sudden. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Mr. Forde. And she reaches out and just taps you on the knee a couple times. I didn't mean to get all serious mother on you. That was not my intention. This happens when I talk about my son. I talk about him and then things happen because he's dramatic. And so in turn I must also be dramatic. And you can see her lifting up her hands and gazing up at the sky and sticking out one of her legs.
Yeah. Chifley is gonna smile a little bit more at that. Did you just roll her a performance?
Yes.
Amazing.
Chifley, Dirty 20.
Dirty 20 on a performance. That's pretty dang dramatic. Chif's gonna smile a bit more. Well, fortunately, being dramatic is not exactly a detriment to Toons.
Oh, yes. Yes, I've noticed that in all the ways that Lau struggles in the drama department, oh, he excels. He does so like to overreact or underreact. He's a contrary little bugger. But he is my son.
Chifley's just gonna nod, and then he's gonna look up at the sky a bit and look at the shrine, and then look back the way he came over the hill, and he's gonna stand up and brush the grass off of his white pants. Well, it's been a pleasure, Miss Rabia. I do have to be getting on, though.
Rabia blinks a couple of times, tilts her head back, puts her hands behind her back, and leans on her hands and just tilts her head back to look at you, so her hair is kind of dripping down towards the floor. Mm-hmm. She's looking at you from upside down. Mm-hmm. She blinks, just, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to keep you. I got rather into talking. It's been a while since I've been able to just talk about my son normally. And it's even better to talk to someone who is apparently a friend of his. I shan't keep you, Mr. Forde.
Hi. It's nice to meet you. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.
She shoots you big old grin and nods upside down.
Mm-hmm.
I wish the same upon you, Mr. Forde. Safe travels. Fleet feet for you, dear.
He's gonna nod and smile and then turn and make his way back up his little goat track in the grass up towards the hill.
Excellent. And I will say Rabia stays there, lingers for a few hours. Doesn't pluck any more flowers, but looks at the flowers she has gathered, twines up the stems and pops them in a little pouch on the side of her belt. Gets up, stretches, looks around, and then kind of heads off into the thicket and bushes and trees.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of get a still shot of a speeding up of time, of the sun hitting its peak and then setting down, down, down to the horizon, going from yellow to orange to purple to blue as the moon rises out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very thin crescent, and this clearing is silent, but for the water lapping against the pebble beach, and maybe the occasional cricket, and the slow, quiet humming of the shrine, until the crunching of grass underfoot kind of shatters that silence, and a figure approaches the shrine. And they look up at this shrine, and their brown jacket is backlit with blue. Their boots are casting a long, long shadow across the pond-like lake. And they look up, and their face is cast in dark shadows and blue relief. And as the blue of the light of the shrine kind of sinks into their eyes, they sigh, cross their legs, plop themselves down on the floor, and they say, "So this is where he built you. Well, I hope you don't mind if I ask you a few questions." And we cut it there.
Ah. Ah. I recognize that voice. Oh dear, wonderful, 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 wonderful. There was one thing that I wanted to roll a d2 to see whether or not Chifley would do it before we knock off for the day.
Go for it.
1 yes, 2 no. 1 yes!
Oh, what did he do?
Joy. Okay.
What is it?
So, when leaving the field where the shrine is, Chifley didn't go home.
Oh.
And he didn't go to pick Missy up from school. Instead, he went to Lau's place.
Oh, God.
And just a little polite little knock, knock, knock on the door.
You're gonna hear a, "Hang on, just a moment," and you hear like a, no, you're not allowed anymore. I told you that's enough mulch. No, you can't have any more. You're going to swell and break your pot again. And just, you hear the rumbling of wheels coming towards the door, and then and the door opens up, and Lau is sitting there, on his indoor chair, which is like a tall-backed office chair. It's very comfy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Designed for the indoors.
Yeah.
And he looks at you, Chifley, kind of blinks a couple times and says, "Oh, Chifley, I was not expecting you today. No, get back in there!" And you see him kind of tilt over his shoulder and click his fingers, and you hear a coming from something. It's like, I apologize. It's I am in the middle of repotting, and it's not staying in the pot. Yes, I will. No, you cannot have any more mulch. I'm so sorry. What was it you needed?
Chifley's just gonna. The whole thing about yelling at the plant just makes him sort of smile a little bit, but then he sort of leans back into the hallway and looks in like every direction as if thinks he might have been followed or something, before leaning a little closer. May I come in for a moment?
Lau kind of looks behind him, winces, nods, and says, oh, "Yes, that's fine, but stay out of the living room. It's..." And you hear a shatter of some things. Just stay out of the living room. Take a seat in the kitchen. It's. Are you staying for tea, or is this just a quick chat?
That will really depend.
You can see his outline wiggles a bit before he nods at that and rolls himself away from the door and pulls himself along the wall with vines towards the archway on the left to the kitchen.
Cool. Well, we'll have Chifley go straight there. No deviations, no curiosity, just straight to the kitchen.
Please go straight to the kitchen. Chifley, if you come in, you see that the entryway to the living room is strewn with dirt and stuff. The carpet, the moss that makes up the carpet of the floor has been turned up, and there are what looks like to be deep gouges in the floor. When Lau says stay away, he probably fucking means it this time.
Yeah, like he'll offer to help afterwards, but Chiff will offer to help after he's said what he has to say, but he fully expects to be told no. But that's neither here nor there. He will offer. But yeah, he's going to go into the kitchen. He's going to sort of sit down at the table there and just sort of twiddle his thumbs a little bit as he waits for Lau to join him, as he's just sort of pondering how he's going to say this.
So Lau just kind of puts like a pot of... He doesn't put a pot of tea on. Yeah, he just comes over to the table and sits opposite you. And just kind of rolls a hand out towards you and say, if this turns into a longer chat, I might make tea, but if this is just a quick drop-in, then, well, say what you need to say.
Chifley will...
He does appear a bit distracted. His eyes kind of keep darting towards the living room.
That's fair. That's very fair. Chifley will nod and then lean back in the chair and put his hands on his lap and say, I don't know if this is a overstep of boundaries on my part, if you know already, or if it's a problem, but your mother's in town.
Lau was kind of glancing between, like, you and the living room, and then he pauses, and you see his outline doing a weird twist of some sort, like it kind of ropes. You get the impression that you can see, like, the outline of it roping on itself, as he slowly turns back towards you and says, Chifley, I need you to answer very carefully. Which mother exactly is in town?
There was a little bit of a blink, blink. Oh. Well, I didn't know there was more than one, but a real kind woman by the name of Rabia.
I can't roll for this. You see his face had like a very slight tint of hope on it. But you also kind of saw an expectation. And the minute you say Rabia, his face just kind of falls and his outline gets jagged and he just like, she's nearby then.
I was worried that might be the response.
Oh no, I deeply appreciate you telling me this, Chifley. And he shoots you a very wide, kind of spiky grin. I appreciate you letting me know when she's around. It's good to know when I need to prepare certain things. And he seems to be... He's laced his fingers together and he's kind of staring off against the wall behind you, completely no longer paying attention to the screaming and the thrashing coming from the living room. And he just kind of nods and says, "Thank you for letting me know, Chifley. Was that all you were here for?"
Yes. She showed up near the shrine we made. I was asking all sorts of questions. And I wasn't sure if it was well, I wasn't sure whether or not a surprise visit from her would be appreciated or not.
I'm rather... Coming from her... Drop my phone. Coming from her, all visits are a surprise. But at least this time I've got a heads up. And his spiky grin is still there, and the curls on the back of his head have kind of in turn are curling up to the back of his head and springing back out and curling up and springing back out. It's good to have a heads up this time. I appreciate it, Chifley. Thank you. And he does shoot you a very genuine, if slightly vicious grin.
Oh gosh. Chifley is just mentally going, "Oh yeah, I think I've seen that grin earlier today." But he nods. Well, I'm glad that I was able to help. Speaking of help, do you need an extra set of hands for that? And he just sort of points over to the lounge room.
The spikes of Lao's outline recede slightly, but don't disappear. As he waves one of his hands, he's like, "Oh, no, I have that all in hand." And as he says that, you hear a... and the sound of multiple pots being smashed, and things falling from a high place. And then Lao stops and looks at you. "Right, actually, in this particular case, assistance wouldn't go amiss." And he kind of pushes himself away from the table, looks at you, jacks ahead towards the living room, and makes his way over, calling, "I told you if you had some patience, you can't have any more mulch!" Which is responded to with a screech.
I think Chifley is going to give the absolute smallest little giggle at Lao's yelling at this plant, but then he's just going to follow after Lao and follow any instructions given, because he's not got really that much experience with this kind of plant. But he's mentally resolving to ask about Rabia a little bit later. Just maybe not today.
Yeah, today probably not the smartest of ideas to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's is there anything else you want to do?
Nope,
Because if not, then
that's all.
That's it, folks.
Gosh, that was fun. Thank you for doing this with me, too.
Thank you for doing this with me.
And
it was very good.
I am squinting at you for that other bit.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. No, don't worry about it. It's fine.
It's
okay.
Good.
It's good. It's fine. It's all good.
Oh dear,
yes.
dear. All right, I might go ahead and stop my recording now. Thank you everyone for listening and coming on this ride with us. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you. Goodbye.